Sorry for the interruption, although it's probably better to make shorter videos and people watch them all the way through. I think you get more revenue when the whole video is watched, something like that. I'm not quite sure how it works. I like to listen to the Writer's Almanac on NPR. I like to well-rounded listen to voices on the right, listen to voices on the left, listen to voices in the middle. Try to get an idea of the world by listening, by not insisting on my own way. And so many people today, that's all they do. And it doesn't matter which side you're on, although for the most part, what I've experienced and what I listen to, I found that people who are, for the most part, branded to be on the right, not everyone on the right, and certainly not, what we call like the alt-right, although I listen to some of them too, particularly I'm fascinated by, there's a Twitter handle called The Rebbe. I want to listen. They made a podcast interview with him. I haven't listened to that yet. Likely, someone said he doesn't really listen. He doesn't really sound like a Rebbe. It's interesting. Similar to me, he did mention something on his Twitter that he was raised with somewhat a Catholic background too. But the thing is, I never really had the Catholic background, even though I was baptized Catholic as a baby, and my father went to Catholic school. He's not particularly religious now, but I didn't really have the Catholic background. It seems that this anonymous author has. It's not me. If anyone thinks it's me, it's definitely not me. I don't agree with a lot of the things he says, but I'm fascinated by his whole theory that the left is basically Sabbatarian in origin. I would add to that Erev Rav, but maybe that's too conspiratorial, and also point out certain things about the Erev Rav that people might find to be too much in the realms of conspiracy theory. A lot of people are assuming that from what I say that I'm branding everybody who's not Orthodox as part of this cabal, which is not true at all. However, it seems pretty obvious that there is a concerted effort by people who are mostly not Orthodox Jews. One person, he said, it's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Hasidism. And that's what I've always said. And then he says, what, but you're breaking yourself off from other Jews? And I haven't responded to that comment yet, although this could be a response. I don't know if you're watching it. I think it's Adam K. I do love all of my brothers and sisters in faith. Because there's a mitzvah, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your neighbor as yourself. Which the sages say, kamocha b'torah v'mitzvot. Who's like you in Torah and mitzvahs, you have to love. Meaning, you can't have a personal grudge against another from Jew because of some business disagreement or something. You have to love them. But the Shulchan Aruch is clear, and it's in the Bible, and in Psalm 139. Those who hate you, I hate with an utter hatred. Meaning that when it ceases to be a personal grudge, and it becomes an issue of God, we have an obligation that there's a time for love and a time for hate. And what is hatred, though, biblically speaking? We really have to do a word comparison. It's fascinating love someone. You hate someone and you dislike someone, and they're two different things. Biblically speaking, the word sinah, which we translate as hate, often is just used to indicate someone who you love less than the other one. Meaning, a man has two wives, one he loves and one he hates. Now, if he hated her, he would just divorce her. And it's assumed that a man doesn't hate his wife the way we say in English hate. Although there is such a thing, especially if somebody has two wives, in biblical times polygamy was practiced. It was rare, but it was practiced. This is one he loves and one he hates. So it's obvious from the context there that this word hate is not what we mean in English hate. And so therefore the same thing when Malachi says, I loved Jacob and I hated Esau, we can assume it just means I loved him less in the same kind of context, though it's not necessarily, you don't have to apply the rules of one, see, Christian scholars tend, particularly I'm saying fundamentalist Christian scholars, tend to lump the Bible into one unit, which we also lump the Tanakh into one unit. But what I mean to say is that they'll assume if a word has one meaning in one place in the Bible, it must have the same meaning everywhere in the Bible. And if we're intellectually honest, we know that's not really true. Even within the same book, even within the same passage, there are times when the same word have different connotations. Sometimes that's, and I mean this in a sense of lower criticism, not higher criticism is heresy, but meaning lower criticism, meaning in the sense that we recognize that God is the author of all this, but you'll see the same word being used ironically in Scripture, meaning there's certain words that you use and certain words that are homonyms that will be used in an ironic sense. I think a perfect example of that is the end of Genesis 2 and the beginning of Genesis 3, where it says that man and his wife were arumim, they were naked, and then the same word is used for the snake, and the snake was more cunning than all the beasts of the field. The same word for naked, which is not a word that's always used for naked. We have, in English translations of the Bible, we'll use the word erva and translate as nakedness. That's a specifically sexual term. Here, this word arum generally, when it means naked, it's not in a sexual connotation. It's in a, generally you'll talk about, arum means, in the term of nakedness, it means someone who's poor, doesn't even have clothing. Malbish arumim, that God clothes the naked. That's in our liturgy. But here it's talking about they were naked, but in an innocent way. So it's the exact opposite of erva. But I was talking about it before, and I don't remember, and I'm sorry. But we'll go on to another comment that he made. Oh, no, because it was a comment that he made recently that I didn't answer yet. I can't remember the comment now. We'll get back to it another time. Anyway, another comment he made was that here we have, he said, this whole idea of the Eruv is silly. How do you make it when you're just making loopholes? It undermines the whole thing. And then he said, and here the Orthodox, they make fun of the conservative for being lenient, and the Orthodox are even more guilty because you see things that are openly in the scripture that they don't follow. I have really approached all of these things before. I think I was talking about loving your fellow Jew, and my point here was that so let's cover that first. Judaism is a religion and not a race, and I stick to that. Even though a lot of people are upset that I say that, I stick to that 100%. Judaism is a religion and not a race. If somebody abandons the faith, I mean, this is true in every other religion. If you don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah, you cannot call yourself a Christian. If you do not believe Muhammad is a prophet and the last prophet, you cannot call yourself a Muslim. Maybe some people do, and the other Muslims say that they're heretics, meaning that there are certain Islamic groups, they tend to be more liberal, who accept later prophets. I mean, the Baha'i movement certainly is no longer part of Islam, but there is another movement, I don't remember, it's somewhat popular in India. I don't remember the particular name, but it's a liberal approach to Islam that seems to venerate a certain imam as a new prophet. I'm not exactly sure of all the details, but because of that, they're seen as heretical by other Muslims, for the most part. But my point is that's a tangent. I know one of my, not here, learn with, he gets upset when I go off on these tangents, but I think that's how we really learn more. I don't know, maybe you disagree. That's how the Gemara talks. Rabbi Bar Tzadok calls it the oscillating consciousness, the seichel tenuah, like an oscillating fan. That we have to be able to turn our minds around, examine all the different things, put on the VR helmet, and even though I've never done that, you'd be able to look around 360 degrees, or, I've heard that they're saying an atheist loses his status as a Jew. Meaning what? Meaning what? In Jewish law, if you're a kafir, if you are a heretic, if you're an infidel, if you deny the basic tenets of Judaism, you'd lose your status as a Jew. If you're Mechal Shabbos b'far Hesia, if you publicly desecrate the Sabbath, well, there are different opinions as to what exactly that means. Many rabbis will say if someone is they're embarrassed to break Jewish law in front of somebody, meaning, if they were in front of some big rabbi or a big Rosh Yeshiva, some big rabbi, and they would be embarrassed to break Jewish law, that's already not a Mechal Shabbos professor. Even if 1,000 people know to break Shabbos, but if he would show some shame about breaking Shabbos, it shows that he recognizes that there's a value to Shabbos. Rav Ovadia Yosef is perhaps even a bit more liberal in a certain sense. He says anyone who says the words and understands what he's saying, Mekadesh Shabbat, Mekadesh Shabbos, that we say, or even would see he answers Amen. They come to your house and they answer Amen to Kiddush, Mekadesh and Shabbos, and that is considered that they're Shomer Shabbos, halachically, meaning that they're still punished for not keeping Shabbos. It doesn't mean that they're not in trouble that they're not keeping Shabbos. What it means, though, is that they don't lose their Jewish status. Meaning someone who drives to shul, but parks a little bit far away or tries to hide or whatever, even parks at the bottom of the hill. It's not Mechal Shabbos, but perhaps. And there's also questions of, well, it's driving. It's a grama. It's not is it actually Chil Shabbos? Different discussions like that as well. But that's not what we're talking about. Meaning, the essence is the ideology and not the practice. This is why, even though this is not the term we gave ourselves, but it's an apt term that we speak of Orthodox Judaism and not Orthoprax Judaism, because no one can be totally Orthoprax. Everybody is a sinner. Everybody does things wrong. But you can be totally Orthodox. No, but then the question is, what if someone expresses that they are not Orthodox, but they appear to be more or less Orthoprax, or even if we know that they're not 100% Orthoprax, and they claim to be not to not be Orthodox, what's the status now? Obviously, someone who's born Jewish just has to do teshuvah in order to be back in the Jewish community. So that being said, we had in our own shul, and it's interesting, this is one neighbor of ours who's very insistent that we should not be misarv to minyan anyone who's not a Shomer Shabbos. That he's very insistent that we should have a Shomer Shabbos minyan, that at least 10 of the men who are there in shul, he's walking from far away, he has about a 40-minute walk to shul. So whatever, sometimes he makes his own minyan, though he has a hard time getting that together. And he said, why should he make this big schlep? He doesn't, if he's not going to have a Shomer Shabbos minyan. And also the discussion of what aspects of the minyan you count for, you don't count for. So, but we had someone in our community who claimed to be an atheist, but once in a while he'd come to shul, and I think some of the mishpacha of this person who was always very insistent in the Shomer Shabbos minyan said that he should daven Musaf for the Amud. Our Rav wasn't there. After Shabbos, I told the Rav about it, and he didn't seem to have a problem with it, and I didn't express any problem with it. So this man says he's an atheist, but the thing is that he knows what he's reading. He went to yeshiva, he learned in Lakewood, and now he claims to be an atheist. Alright. So, but halachically speaking, what we say is Dvarim Shebelev Einam Dvarim. Words in the heart are not words. We're not mind readers. Halachically speaking, there's no such thing as a mind reader. Torah lo b'shamayim, even if you are a mind reader, doesn't matter. Even if you know what someone's thinking. Alright, there's a discussion in halacha. What are the parameters of that? But most likely, it's the same question with conversion, different things. So here we have a fellow who claims to be an atheist, and yet he's saying the words, Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed art thou, O Lord. He's saying Shema, he's davening Musaf. So in the Kedusha for Musaf, we have Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And so he's expressing faith in God, but then he claims he doesn't believe. I never said this to him because I try to be a respectful person, and I really love this person. I enjoyed talking to him. They moved away, but they used to live in our community. Very intelligent person, enjoyable to listen to, although I don't know. Bernie Sanders made his brains fall out. I don't know, but it happened to the best of us. I don't know. I mean, I could probably say the same thing about Trump. The only difference is that I'm happy to criticize Trump. It seems like Bernie's people are like, oh, he's perfect, there's nothing wrong with him, But anyway, it's true. Think about how many people who voted for Trump who said that he's really not that good, but we don't want to vote for Hillary. There are even a lot of people who voted for Trump who bought into the lies of who Bernie Sanders is, because Bernie Sanders is such a smooth operator. I mean, I kind of bought into it. I'm talking from my own experience and my own feelings about him, and now, you see who he really is. And, at first I was like, I would never vote for someone Jewish, that was my old mantra. I could never vote, for someone Jewish, because if he does something wrong, I'm going to be Michal Hashem, and although in a way, when we're voting for Trump, we're kind of voting for his mishpacha, and so he has Erlich Yidin, his daughter, his son-in-law, his Einiklach. It's how do we approach this? Whatever. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. But it seems like all of us who voted for Trump had some reluctance. And everybody, although I don't know, there are a lot of people who drank the Kool-Aid with Trump too, but I don't know, but there's definitely more people who voted for Trump just to vote against Hillary. Although since I had such low expectations of Trump, he's doing pretty good. But these Bernie people, they're like, he's Mashiach, Reagan and not for Carter. You know. So the same thing. You know, this is a man that we know is tremendously flawed, but we're not electing a pope. You know, we're electing a president and so forth. But also the thing is that Hillary Clinton was no saint herself. You know, she's basically an enabler of a rapist. You know, I mean, she's a really evil person, and she probably has a lot of blood on her hands. Whatever. It's neither here nor there. Am I going to get stuck behind these trucks, or are they going to turn? Seems like two of them are turning. Is this one going to turn? Yes, but Hashem, I don't think trucks are even allowed on this highway here. Anyway, I think I'll make it. Mirz Hashem. Have a little kvitzas and derech. This is Shemai Masaros. By Hayem Elohayim. So anyway, what's the days? Anyway, what was I talking about? Ugh, come on. Anyway, now it's too late for me to listen to Glenn Beck. That's too far along on my journey. What was I talking about? I don't even remember. But my point is that the average secular Jew, even who goes to Reform Conservative Temple, can be in the category really maminim b'nei maminim, that they're believers, the children of believers, at least from a halachic standpoint, even if it's not actually true, meaning that there's somewhat this halachic fiction that includes the average Jew who at least, you know, in some way does something for Yom Kippur as part of Klal Yisrael. Meaning it's not the blood that goes, it's not automatic. You're not Jewish by doing nothing. Just by being, unless you're unable to do anything. I mean, you know, obviously if you're handicapped, if you're shoyte, then you're potter. That's a different story. But I'm saying a person who has all his faculties, is of sound mind and body, and he makes a conscious decision, not only, meaning somewhat, the orthoprax atheist is not halachically an atheist. Someone who goes to shul and davens is not an atheist according to halacha. He can say all he wants that he's an atheist, and maybe at the time when he says that he's an atheist, but then at the time when he goes to shul and davens and says the words Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, he's Jewish. You know, I mean, we never become a Gentile. That's the difference. But there's nothing wrong with being a Gentile. That's something we also have to understand. You know, there's something wrong with being a heathen. There's something wrong with being a pagan. There's nothing wrong with being a Gentile. And even being a heathen or a pagan, if you're pious and a good person and you're just ignorant, the Bible is pretty obvious that you're also okay. Most of what our sages said against the heathens, the pagans, were about their evil. Meaning these were people who had no care for human life. Penter